Hi and welcome to the WOOLapyk Podcast. My name is Ida and this is a podcast about knitting. It's been a while since I did my last podcast, so I have quite a few things to show you that I have completed or that I've cast on during these last months. And I think I'm just gonna start by showing you one of the finished objects. I have three and a half finished objects to show you. So the first one is one for my boy who is he is 8 months now, and I knit him a sweater by Petite Knit. This is the Friday sweater by Petite Knit, and you can see here I have the pattern that I have is the baby version, so that runs from newborn until 12 months, I think. But he's a very, very big boy. And so I knew that the 12 months would be way too small for him. So what I did was I cast on a few more stitches than what is recommended for the size 12 months. And then I just followed the pattern with those extra stitches divided out until like the sleeves and the front and back. And then I continued with the increasing of the raglan here until I thought it looked like it would be okay for him. And then I, divided for the sleeve and the body and just continued to knit on until I ran out of yarn, basically. I ran out of the contrast color here, as you can see. So unfortunately, I ran out of that. But I ended up just doing a bit of like asymmetrical striping, or maybe not asymmetrical, but I just made longer sequences of the main color between those stripes, and I feel like it worked out quite well, actually. I would have liked to have so the stripes are made of 2 rows of yarn, or 2 rows of the contrast color, but I didn't have enough for that, so I ended up just having enough yarn to do one row here. I really would have liked that to be like 2 rows like the rest of the stripes, but I mean, that was all I had left. So I had, I think, maybe this much left of the main color or the contrast color. So all in all, I'm quite happy with it, even though I ran out of that contrast color. You can see I also I actually had another stripe down here right before I did the ribbing, but I had to rip back and then get that color or that stripe, take that out and then put that into the sleeves as well. So I've been moving kind of back and forth on all the sleeves and the body to make sure that I use the yarn the best way possible. It fits him perfectly right now, which I would have liked it to be just a little too big on him, so that he could wear it longer or for a longer time. But yeah, like I said, I ran out of yarn, so it is what it is. It fits him perfectly. It's like the sleeves are the exact length for him at the moment. Same thing for the length on the body. Yeah, and it's just a really sweet little pattern. The yarn that I used is Little Lionhead Knits in the White Christmas colorway, which is the main color here. And then it had like a contrasting, I think a 20-gram mini skein of this beautiful red with like an orange undertone. I really like that red color. It has, as you can see probably here on the front, I think the red color has bled just a tiny bit because it's more red. Like the main color is a little more red, or that it was when I knit it. You can always almost tell, like here you can tell like this is a lot more blue and green than the colors here, and I think it's because the red has bled a little, which is, I don't mind, but I was just looking at it because he's been wearing it. I knit it and then I, rinsed and blocked it, and then he's been wearing it a lot, and I just washed it again, and then it came out and I was like, it looks a little different, and I think that's because of that little mishap with the colors. When you hand dye yarn, I feel like the reds are just really, really hard to rinse, and they often bleed a little bit, which I know. So I should just have, if I thought about it, I should just have given that red color a little wash before I started using it. That would have been so easy. But I honestly don't really mind. It's a sweater for a baby. And he's gonna, sorry, I was just coughing. He is not going to be able to wear it for long anyway. So, like I said, Friday sweater by Petite Knit, and the yarn is from Little Lionhead Knits, and I really love her yarns and her colors and colorways. They're so gorgeous. I have another actually colorway or item that I knit with her yarn that I'll show you in a minute. The next thing that I have finished is something for me. It's a modified version of a Helga Isa pattern that I have been working on for more than a year, I think. I think I started maybe even before I got pregnant with Anton, so maybe even longer than that. Yeah, it's been under my needles for quite a while, and I cast it on because I wanted a basic t-shirt that I could wear during spring and summer. But at that point, I couldn't really find any pattern that I liked. Since then, I feel like there's been a lot of nice spring and summer garments coming out, actually. But I found this pattern by Helga Isa. I'm going to show you. Let me show you the pattern that I really liked. I liked the shape of it. So here it is. Can you see there? So it's a knitted t-shirt or top with a contrast yarn for the neckline and for the sleeves. And then it has, I don't know if you can tell, but it has these tiny cables running all the way through the body. And I didn't want the cables, and I also didn't want the contrast color, but I really like the shape of this. So I cast on using my own yarn and my 50% merino, non-superwash merino, 50% silk, and this nice yellow color. And then I started working on this, and I worked on it for quite a while, and then I reached I think I reached the sleeves, and I began working on, I think, on the back, and then I stopped for at least half a year, and then I picked it back up, and at that point I couldn't remember what I'd done. I couldn't remember what was my own, sort of what I've done as a modified, like what I did in the modifying process and like what I was doing in regards to following the pattern. So the rest of this has just been sort of trying to wing it. But I did manage to finish it, and let's see. I should have put this on a hanger so you could see it better, I guess. But here it is. See, it's a little longer in the back than the front, which I really like. I can't remember if that was something that I planned or if it's something that's in the pattern, but it works out quite nicely. You see the sleeves here. The only thing with this pattern is that it looks even here, but you can see that row of knit stitches here that's supposed to be right in the middle of the V-neck. It's, when I wear it, it sort of like wants to pull to this side, so it's very crooked and not even at all. I I looked at the pattern, and it does look like it's doing a little bit of the same thing in the pattern, but not nearly as bad as this. So I am thinking about maybe I actually have, if you're on Patreon, I said that already, but I am going to rip this out and then try to reknit it and see if I can get it more even. Because it annoys me. I mean, generally, I'm not really that picky, or it has to be really, really bad for me to rip something back. I'm just too lazy. I don't want to use my time on redoing stuff. I'm just a lazy knitter. And I also feel like I don't have time, and I want to I have so many other things that I want to knit, so I can get a little impatient, and I am not I'm not a perfectionist with my knitting. But this annoys me because it's such a central part of the design, and you just see it straight away. If it was something under the arm, something else, it wouldn't matter to me. But it's something that you definitely notice as soon as you see me wearing this. And it's knit on the top is knit on a size 3mm needle, and I'm a slow knitter, so it's been a long project for me. It's taken me a long time, and I'm afraid that if I don't rip this back, I won't wear it, and that would be a shame. So the plan is to redo this neckline. Yeah. And I should probably do it right now once I'm done with the podcast, because otherwise it's just gonna be one of those things that's just laying in a corner somewhere. What else did I do? Yeah, I did a fold over hem. In the pattern there is not really any there's a hem obviously, but because it's knitted with these tiny cables, there's not really any need for ripping or anything because it doesn't roll because of the cables. But obviously, since I'm just knitting and stockinette stitch, it needed to have a hem, and I just really like these fold over hems. I think they're quite elegant and pretty. Yeah, so that's it. The pattern that I used as a guideline is this one. PSSO, pass slip stitch over. So my third finished object is another little thing for Anton. And I think I talked about this in my last podcast because it was supposed to be a ribble bralette by Jessie May for myself, and it just turned out to be too small, and I decided to turn it into a vest for Anton. So I started by casting on here, and I knit to probably around here, and then I realized that it was way too small for me, and then I just decided to continue working on this and make it into a vest for Anton. As you can see here, it looks small, but it is very, very, very stretchy. And he's been wearing this quite a lot. It fits him very, very nicely, and it's perfect for him when he's rolling around on the floor. Our floors are quite cold here, so he always has an extra layer on his body to keep him warm. The yarn that I used is, as you can see here, it's very pretty yarn from, again, Colleen of Little Lionhead Knits. This is Hints of Autumn. I really, really love this colorway. I knit this using 2 strands held together, and I ran out of yarn, so I had to substitute some of my own yarn here, which is a advent calendar colorway. I don't know why that slipped my mind. It's an advent calendar colorway called the Snowman, as far as I remember. I think that's it. And it works quite nicely with the rest of the yarn. I don't know if you can tell, but I just washed this as well. And for some reason, my kids, or maybe when they're babies, they eat or they drool. I don't know what they do, but often, like the front, especially right here in the neckline, tends to get really sort of gross. And it's just sort of hard and not really very comfortable. It doesn't, when I feel it, it just feels like maybe even like there's acrylic in there or something. Like it just has this scratchy sort of hard feeling to it. And not because there's acrylic in there, but I think it's something about the food or something. Or maybe it's something that I do when I try to clean their knit. So I don't know if anyone has any suggestions as to why that is. Is it just because they're messy babies and that's just what happens with the knits? Or maybe it's because this yarn is a superwash yarn and that's how that reacts. I don't know. Maybe I should just knit and I want it 100% wool. I feel like it does the same with wool than as this. And I don't know. I don't really know how to treat the baby knits in a way so that I get all the gunk out of it, but still sort of take care of the knits, because I don't want to wash this on a really warm setting. I guess I could put it in maybe in a just a tub of lukewarm soapy water, and that may help. Yeah, let me know if you have any suggestions as to how to clean this and sort of get that stiffness out of the garment. Yeah, so that was another finished object for Anton. I just wanted to say, if you're on Patreon, I forgot to say this in the beginning, if you're on Patreon, you will, as you have probably already found out, some of the things I talk about, I have already talked about on Patreon. So there's going to be some, repetition of something that you've already heard. But there's also going to be some new things, which is one thing that I'm going to show you right now that you haven't seen on Patreon. And that is, and Patreon is a platform where where you can support lots of different people doing lots of different things. But on Patreon, I have a channel or a platform where I do a vlog and a podcast every month, and you can sign up and you pay monthly. So every month you pay. I have 2 tiers, which is basically just 2 amounts that you can choose between paying. And the cheapest one is, I believe, is 20 kroner, which is a Danish crowns, which is around $3.50, I think. And that gives you access to all the vlogs. And also if I do like a little post or anything on there, you can see that. And the vlogs are just, some of it is just daily life here at home. It can be about, last month it was a little bit about yarn dyeing. Sometimes it's about if we go traveling, just everyday things. And then I have the second amount that you can pay is 35 Danish crowns, which is, what's that? $5 maybe? I think when you sign up, it will show you in the currency that you would like, depending on what country you live in. So you can go in there and have a look and see. But I think it's around $5. And that gives you access to the vlog and the podcast every month. And the podcast is basically just like this, where I sit and talk. And you can sign up just for a month to see if it's something that you like, and then you can sign off again. It's something you're not like, you don't sign up for like supporting me endlessly. So if you don't like it, you can just stop supporting me again. Anyway, just to say that this is something that you haven't seen on Patreon. Well, you have seen it, but you have not seen how far I've gotten on it, because I am basically finished with this. And this is my shawl, my own design that I worked on also for quite a while, maybe even just as long as this little top. But it's a shawl that I started designing because I wanted to knit a shawl where you could use up those single skeins of yarn that we all have, that we buy, because they're beautiful, but probably you don't buy enough to knit a whole garment. So I think all of us have these single skeins laying around that we don't really know what to use for. So I wanted to knit a shawl where you could use 2 of those, so you can pair them. And this is what it looks like. So, like I said, it's done. It's almost done. I need to add some tassels and things like that. So, here it is. It looks a little funny down here at the end because I had to do a lot of stretching. I did the bind off, or I did the slip stitches here just a tiny bit too tight, so I had to really pull on here to get it to look a little more even. But that also meant that this got rounded. It has to be a little more pointy, but I will just do a bit of a reblocking of that. So anyway, I can't really show you. It's just a very simple garter stitch shawl with some eyelets and like an asymmetrical shape. Can you see? Here. Okay, that's really hard for me to show you. I knit this using my own hand-dyed yarn. And for this shawl, I used both a superwash merino and a silk mohair. But you could knit this just with a single strand of yarn, or you could knit it with like a DK weight yarn. It's a shawl, so it doesn't really matter. You don't really have to worry about gauge in the same way as if it's a garment, because, you know, it just gets bigger or smaller depending on what yarn you use. Yeah, so the yarn I used is, this colorway is Beachcomber on both superwash merino and silk mohair. And I love the way it looks. It's so pretty. And then I dyed up a blue skein of yarn that, or 2 blue skeins, so also superwash merino and a nylon. Superwash merino, nylon, and silk mohair, and just a blue, which I didn't write down the pattern or the recipe for that colorway, so I can't really recreate that. Anson just woke up, but hopefully he will sleep a little bit longer now. So yeah, the shawl needs a tassel down here, and also I think I'm gonna add some for each end as well. And my original plan was to make this into a real pattern, but like a paid for pattern, but it's been such a long time since I started on this that I can't really remember what I did. That being said, it's quite a simple pattern, but I think what I'm gonna do instead is I want to, the name of the shawl is gonna be the Fiberfolk shawl. If you don't know, I organize a knitting festival along with my husband Jakob called Fiberfolk, or Fiberfolk in Danish. And we just had our first Fiberfolk in Middelfart here in Denmark this weekend. If you came by, thank you. If you came by to say hi to me, thank you. If you bought some yarn, thank you. It was a lovely day, and I had a lot of fun having just a little booth with my yarn. But I was actually working on this, and I finished this on the way home. Excuse me, mohair, silk mohair, from Fiberfolk. And as I was finishing it off, I was talking to Jakob about how I could make this into a free shawl pattern that's going to be available on Fiberfolk's website, because I thought that would be a nice way to sort of generate some traffic to Fiberfolk. So if people watch or see this pattern on Instagram probably, and they want to knit it, they're gonna have to go onto our Fiberfolk website to get it, and that way we can generate more people knowing about, or generate more people to the website, and then also getting them to sort of be aware or know of Fiberfolk. So I thought that was a really clever idea. So I think I'm gonna do that and see if I can make a pattern, and I may ask some Danish people to help me with the Danish version, because I am not that good at Danish patterns. When I lived in the US is when I learned how to knit, and by using YouTube channels, and so I've always been knitting, or been most comfortable knitting with English patterns. I'm a lot better at Danish patterns now, but I still feel like for writing a pattern, I am just better in English. So I would probably ask if there's a Danish person who would help me with. I guess I can try writing it myself, but just checking out if it makes sense, basically. But I haven't written the pattern or anything yet. But that's the plan anyway, so that you can eventually get this pattern on Fiberfolk's website. And hopefully we can get some traffic that way. It's quite... we don't have a huge budget for advertisements and things like that on Fiberfolk, so... we really rely on people helping us, spreading the word on Instagram. We always, after every Fiberfolk we've had, we always get quite a big amount of new followers, just because people are like sharing on Instagram or Facebook that they're at Fiberfolk or things they bought. So if you have been there, or if you've just have shared about Fiberfolk in any way, thank you so much, because that really is a huge help for us. I feel like I'm talking about all kinds of things, but that's the plan for this Fiberfolk shawl. Hopefully being released soon, but it's a very simple shawl. You cast on 2 stitches, and then you just increase for a certain amount of time, and then you decrease again, and then you do some eyelets. That's it. So it shouldn't be too hard for me to write this pattern, basically. That is all of my finished or nearly finished objects. Then I have 2 works in progress. I have another one for Anton. I feel like I have so many knits for Anton, but Esther, my girl, she just turned 5, and she has not been wanting to wear any knits for more than a year, maybe 2 years now. She keeps telling me that they're, she says, de sticker, like they're like pointing, like, not pointing at her. What is that word? Basically, she means they're scratchy. She just says it in a funny way. And I have just completely given up on knitting her anything, because it's a waste of my time, basically. And I get annoyed with her for not wearing it, which is not really fair, because it's not like she's asking me to knit her anything. But now I have Anton, and he's too young to complain. So he's the one who's getting all the knits. I am working on another sweater for him. Just one that's a little warmer than the Friday sweater. This is knit in a fingering weight yarn, and the gauge is 28 stitches per 10 centimeters, something around there. And I'm knitting this new sweater in a DK weight yarn. Yeah, I'm knitting it in this double soft merino from Knitting for Olive. This is the hazel colorway, or hazelnut in Danish. It's almost worsted, actually. It's 18 stitches per 10 centimeters. So it's thicker, and I wanted something that was a little warmer for him also. Also because I went to Berlin with and Anton a couple of weeks ago, and he had a really nice soft sweater that I knit in Yndlings number 2 yarn, I think, which is like a very, very soft merino. And it's a cardigan, and we lost it there, or forgot it somewhere. So now he actually needs it even more. Anyway, I am knitting the Stjerneskud sweater by Knit by Trine P. And I was looking for the book because I wanted to show you the original pattern and what it looks like, but I don't know. I couldn't find it. It's here somewhere, but I just don't know where. And that pattern is also knit at a 28 stitches per 10 centimeter gauge. And like I said, this yarn is thicker, so I have done some recalculating and am trying to modify it to fit a bigger gauge, smaller gauge. I don't know if you say bigger or smaller. I mean, it's not going to be 28 stitches, it's more along like 18 stitches or something like that. So I've cast on. I'm planning to do a fold over hem, which is also not in the pattern. I just really like that look. And then I've cast on quite a lot. I think maybe even half the stitches that half the amount of stitches that is suggested in the pattern, to make it fit him, because it's again bigger yarn, bigger needles. And I am just finished with the color work, which is such a nice, simple color work that I really enjoyed doing. I'm not really one for doing a lot of color work, but this was just so simple and so easy to do, easy to memorize. And the longest amount of stitches that you have to hold a yarn are 3 stitches, which is here top bottom. And then you just do every other row here of different colors. So it's just very, very simple. And I'm just doing another increase round here, and then I think I'm gonna knit for a centimeter or 2, and then I'm gonna split for the sleeves and the body. The yarn that I'm using is, like I said, this is Knitting for Olive, double soft merino in the hazel colorway. And then for the color work section here, I've used this beautiful yarn from Birkeberg, which is just so pretty. And I held that together with my own yarn in the Beachcomber colorway, just because I was a little nervous that this yarn would drown in the double soft merino, because the double soft merino is just a little more fluffy than this, you can see. And also a little thicker, I think. So I thought in order for this to pop a little bit more, that it needed a little more fluff. Yeah. So that's another work in progress. And then for Enten. My last work in progress is a long lost project that I was knitting away on last winter, quite eager and happy and excited, and then I ran out of yarn. Or I ran out of the first skein of yarn, and then I couldn't find the rest of the yarn. I looked everywhere, and then we moved, and things just got rearranged. And I've been looking this fall as well. I couldn't find it. And then by accident, because I was looking for something else in my stash, I found it. So I have been looking everywhere in the house. I've been looking behind books and like in all boxes to see if I could find it. And for some reason, I just didn't think it would be in my stash yarn, that I would have been organized enough to actually put it away. But it turns out that I have. So I just was so happy when I found the yarn, because that meant that I could, continue working on this sweater. And it's a thick sweater. It's a gauge of 15 stitches per 10 centimeters. So it's perfect for winter. Let me show you a picture of the sweater. No, actually, what's here? It's the Snowy Forest by Hiromi Rose, which is a Japanese knitwear designer. It's from Line magazine number 10, I think. It's the winter 2020. And I am knitting, so they have shown the pattern in 2 different yarns. This is a isn't it an Aran weight yarn, I think? Just 1 strand, and that looks a little more sort of, I don't want to say stiff, but just more, it has a more structured look than the other pattern, which is, not the other pattern, the other version, which is this one. And that's knit with a, I think a strand of a superwash yarn, and then a silk mohair, and I really liked how that it's just, as you can see, just a little more drapey. So that's what I went with. I am knitting it with, again, my own hand-dyed yarn. This is an organic merino, and just a beautiful color. I didn't write this down either, the recipe for this colorway, but I just think it's gorgeous. And then again, this what was that? A little sticker. My silk mohair, again, I don't remember. This is like a peachy brown color, so that's on the cooler side, and this is warmer, and I quite like them together. So that's the yarn that I'm using, and I just picked this up again. So you have the hemline or the neck, that is supposed to be, let's see if I can do this, folded over like this, and then you have these big yummy squishy cables. I have a problem with, again, since it's just a long time that I worked on it, I can't really figure, well, I can see where I am in the knitting, but it doesn't really fit with the chart. And I think I've done something wrong, because there are too few stitches at, there's like a tiny little bit of kind of slip stitches here, and there are too few stitches here. There's supposed to be 7 and I only have 5. And for the big cable here, there's supposed to be 16 stitches and I have 18 stitches. So I've done something wrong with the 2 stitches, those 2 stitches that are basically removed from one cable to the other. I don't know, but I've decided, I've been knitting a few rounds, but I think I'm gonna rip it back until I have to do this cable again, and then redo it so I get the right amount of stitches on there. I am also not completely happy with the way the cables look. Not this one, but the one here. It's just not, I don't know, you can see how it looks. This one looks like it's done correctly. This one looks funny, and it does that on all of the cables. I remember when I did it, I also thought it looked weird, but I have done it the way the pattern suggests. So I don't really know, I don't know what happened. I'm gonna do it again, and if it doesn't work, then maybe I'm gonna try and do something else so it's even on both sides. Yeah, but I'm really excited to start working on this again. It's just a very fun and also very simple pattern, really. I mean, you do these very, very big cables, and I think there are four of them, and then you have to do these tiny slipped stitches on every other row, but that's just very, very simple. So and then once you're done with the cables, it's just stockinette stitch, and then for the rest of the sweater. That was everything I had to show you. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to like or subscribe or comment. That would be really nice. I like to read your comments. I'm not always that good at replying to them, but I do read them all and I really enjoy them. I hope you will enjoy November, and for me, I'm really looking forward to December, mostly because Esther is really looking forward to December, so it's gonna be fun. I have to knit, or not have to, but I hope to knit Anton a Christmas stocking. I have knit one for both Freya and Esther, so hopefully I can knit one for him as well. If not, I'm sure he will forgive me. He's only 8 months old, so he's no clue, but we will see if I get there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.